So I'm going to give a little talk tonight about problem solving through meditation, through mantra meditation. Because does anybody here never have problems? Don't we have problems? Constantly, there's a barrage of problems in our lives. Whenever we've got these material bodies on, there's going to be problems. Whether it's with this body itself, with our mind, with other people, I find that one's the most difficult. Relationships, are they the most difficult problems to deal with? Does everyone agree with that? Yeah, I'd rather have physical problems than relationship problems any day. They're a breeze. But anyway, before I do speak, I'd like to pay my respects to my spiritual teacher. Because without him, I wouldn't have this wonderful knowledge that he's passed on to me. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Shrimate Saraswarapananda Paramahamsa Iti Namane Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasade Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So back to our problems. We're faced with so many problems in life, and most of us, when we have problems, what do? Emily, what do you do when you have a problem? Think about it. Tina, what do you do when you have a problem?
Sometimes try not to think about it.
You girls have got it right. What do we do when we have a problem? We think about it. We think and we think and we think and we think, don't we? We go to bed and our mind is going over and over and over the problem. And sometimes you feel like you're about to explode because you're just focused one-pointedly on your problem. And so just from a practical point of view, isn't it a good idea to take your mind off your problem? Because the problem is we put our minds on these problems that we have, and they grow in size. So something that maybe wasn't such a big problem really, we end up thinking about it so much that it just becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. So a lot of our problems, it's not the size of the problem, it's the way we perceive these problems. And I know I've spoken about it before with the mindfulness, but the last time I went in for my, I had a hip replacement. I've had a number. I've had 2 hips and 3 hips replaced. I've only got 2, but I've had 1 replaced twice. And a knee replacement. And it was always like, I looked at it as this overwhelming thing in my life. Like it was huge. How am I going to deal with this, And I started to contemplate upon it and how it was going to be and how much pain I was going to be in and the fact that I was going to be out of action for so long, and then the rehab, and it just became this huge problem. And the last time I thought, I'm not going to do this time. I'm a slow learner. I've been chanting for a long time, meditation for a long time, but it's working. It really does work. And I thought it's just not a big deal. I'm going to just go in there and not think about this constantly and build it up into this mountain. Mountains out of molehills, don't they call it? So I practiced my meditation, which is the solution to everything. And I went into this operation. I didn't put my mind on it. I was focusing on my meditation and other things in life. I wasn't, placing my whole being into this operation. And like I flew through. When I think back, it was such a small thing. There was very little pain. The medications they give you these days are pretty good. The operation's a lot better now. There's not as much suffering to the body, and the rehab was better. And I just didn't focus on my problem. I focused it on my meditation and these mantras. And honestly, it was the easiest thing that I've ever gone through. And it was really big. Like, to a lot of people, it's a big thing when you have half your body cut out. Like, they chop a huge piece out of your body, and then your scar's like that long, and then they put this big piece of plastic and titanium and they stitch you back up, 70 staples or something. And but the difference was this time I went into it with a different attitude. You know, I didn't start to dwell and think and worry. And, you know, it's like a lot of the time we're like in the desert. You know, just imagine you're in a parched desert and you're crawling along in the desert and you're just focused on your problems and your face is in the sand and you're going, oh my God, the sand, the heat, I'm thirsty. And meditating on that is not going to actually solve the problem, is it? We're just going to meditate on the sand, the heat, the thirst. And then someone comes up to you and says, but why are you meditating on the sand and the heat and the dryness? Why, when there's this beautiful oasis just a few feet over here, why don't you go into that oasis? But we tend to go, oh, but the sand, the heat, I'm parched. We keep meditating on our problems, and we've been given the most wonderful oasis, this oasis of the holy name, of these transcendental sound vibrations. So what we need to do when we're going through these problems is to place our mind on these sound vibrations, these beautiful mantras that we've been given. They're a gift from the spiritual realm. And if we take our mind off our problems and we place our mind on these sound vibrations, you'll find that the problems won't get so big. The problems of life are going to be there, there's no question about that. But it's how we deal with those problems. So next time you come up against a problem, take your mind off that problem, place it in that oasis of transcendental sound, and your mind will go back to the problem. That's what minds do, they latch on. So we put it back on that sound, and we keep doing it. Eventually that problem will get smaller. You will start to gain insight how to solve that problem, because these mantras, they not only relax us and calm us. You know how we're always talking about how you relax in these mantras. They do help you deal with stress, and they, you know, even after you've had a really nice, good kirtan, you feel so relieved of your worries and your anxieties. I've seen people come into the mantra room here absolutely a wreck, crying. They've got some big problem in their life and they don't know how to deal with it. And I've seen the same person walk out with a big smile on their face. You know, these mantras have that effect. But they go much further than that. They do much more than just relieving stress. These mantras actually purify our minds, purify our intelligence. As Lord Chaitanya said, Lord Chaitanya appeared 500 years ago and he started this kirtan movement. And he said that these mantras actually cleanse the heart and the mind of all the dust from so many lifetimes. And they allow us to taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. So these mantras over time will start to cleanse away the mind, cleanse away the dust from the mind and from the intelligence. And gradually you'll be able to make better decisions, not while you're absorbed in your problem. Because you know, it's like you become really muddy. It's like it's all muddy, and the more you dwell on the problems, the harder it is to make decisions on how to deal with these problems. Very hard to make the right decisions. Yeah, we often, when we're so overwhelmed by our problems, we make the wrong decisions. So you'll find that these mantras will purify your intelligence so that you can make these right decisions. You'll start to get insight. And this problem solving actually comes from within. So when we do our mindfulness, I speak about the mind is actually made of material elements. Mind, intelligence, and false ego, which is the misunderstanding of who I really am. That I am the body. Misunderstanding that I am this body. So these mantras actually purify our mind, our intelligence, and they cleanse away that false ego so that I can actually realize who I am. And they help to cleanse our intelligence so that we can make good decisions in our lives. So we have to remember when we're overcome by different problems in life, to take your face out of the sand and place your mind in the oasis. And these mantras can be applied in your life in so many different ways. You can practice japa meditation. Has everybody heard of japa on your beads? If you'd like a little lesson on japa meditation, one of us here can give you a little demonstration, a little class during dinner. It's a really simple way to apply these mantras in your life. And I like to do mine every morning. I practice my japa meditation with these mantras every single morning. If I don't, my day is just a mess. It's not the same. When I start my day with these mantras, it's like gives me a stable footing for the day. And we can also apply them through the Gauranga breathing. You can download a really good track from the ASMY website for the Gauranga breathing. So if you are interested in that, I can give you the link to that. You can put it on your iPod. It's about 15 minutes all up, but you can just do a short session if you want. So around about 7 or 8 minutes each day, where you can focus on this transcendental sound. And then there's also kirtan. And it doesn't have to be that you come to kirtan, you're only coming maybe once a week or once every few weeks. It's not enough. You need to practice mantra meditation every day in your life. So it can be a combination of all these things. But you can actually buy a kirtan CD, and we've got a really good special tonight because the talk is about applying mantra meditation and learning to solve your problems in an intelligent way. So there's a really beautiful CD we've got, Mantra Kirtan, and normally it's $10, but we'll just charge $5, so just our cost tonight. Because if you can have these mantras going just even in the car, you can be driving to work, utilize the time rather than focusing on the radio. Well, I find that just so agitating for the mind. I don't know if you do, but I do. I never liked the radio anyway. But I put the meditation on in my car and I'm listening to that constantly. I have it on at the house. When I'm home, I put the meditation on. I've even got a nice quiet track called Night Chants, and I just have it on really low during the night. So constantly my mind is, it has this purifying effect on my mind constantly. It can be 24/7. But if you can just even lie there and listen to some mantra meditation before you go to sleep for 10-15 minutes, you'll find that it does wonders for your life. Not only will you be able to make intelligent decisions and problem solve, in an intelligent way, you will find that you'll become more happier and more peaceful, and your whole life will change because you get a totally different perspective on everything. So those problems that were so huge, I think about my past before I started meditating and even after for quite a while, just how I behaved at times. Like, even these silly little things. To me, they were these huge problems. And I was a pretty emotional sort of person. So, it's like, I think back and it's really embarrassing. And hopefully I don't do that so much now. These problems that I, place my mind and my being in, they're just like silly little things. Most of them are. My dad always used to say 99.9% of what you worry about doesn't even happen anyway. And isn't that true? The problem, you're worried about this thing that's going to happen tomorrow, and usually it doesn't even happen, and you've just spent a week or two worrying about it and focusing your mind on that sand and that desert and the hot sun, and it didn't even happen, And when you this is just a tiny, tiny part of our existence, being in this body, in Brisbane, in this age we're living in now. On the scale of things, it's like a blink of the eye. We are born, but there's constantly problems all our lives, and we're overwhelmed by problems and worries and anxieties and stresses, and then death. None of those worries are there anymore. Completely gone. You might have been throwing a hissy fit. A huge hissy fit. Bang, it's gone. That problem's gone. Then you're reborn. And you've got another whole set of problems. Everything's overwhelming you. You've got your relationship problems, and your mother just died, and you've just had a baby, and, he's keeping you up all night, and then, through the whole life there's all these problems, and bang, gone. The problems aren't there. They've gone. They're in the past. And then we do it again and again and again. So that's why Lord Chaitanya says these mantras actually purify our hearts and minds of the dust that's accumulated for lifetimes. We've been here for so many lifetimes. And this is just a tiny little part of all those lifetimes. So we need to get a grip. We really do. Just like I did. It's like, I've got to stop this. I'm like a 2-year-old half the time. Like, I'm not getting my way, or this problem or that problem. And, I was always having some sort of a breakdown. And I was like, stop. This is ridiculous. You're a grown woman now. You've got to deal with your problems intelligently and not just focus on them and becoming overwhelmed and taking your mind and your intelligence, placing it on these mantras, and you'll find that problems will become smaller. You'll be able to deal with them better. The problems in life will just be like a duck's back. You water off a duck's back. If you've ever seen a duck, water just runs off it in little beads. And that's how the problems of life will become. They'll become like water off a duck's back. It's just our perspective. Our mind latches on and makes these problems into overwhelming things that it's like we're never going to see the end of, or never going to get out of, or never going to, solve. But all those problems you have in your life, where are they now? Way in the distance, aren't they? You got through them all. They're way, way, way in the distance. You can't even remember half the problems. Most of the problems, probably nearly all of them, you can't remember. What about all those problems you were overwhelmed with 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, if you're that old? Where are they now? You got through them. So we need to step back, practice our mindfulness, realize, yes, I'm not my mind. I don't have to go with this mind. It's taking me into crazy places. I place my mind in this oasis. I submerge my mind in this beautiful spiritual sound vibration. Take a rest. And then you'll be able to come back to your problem and make intelligent choices and decisions. Without all the muddiness. The muddiness will clear away. And you'll be able to see things as they are. And you'll be able to solve your problems with much more ease and with much more intelligence. So namaste.